Oh, that was pretty good. Y'all quieted it down real fast. Good evening, everybody. So glad all of you are here with us. My name is Kristen Berset-Harris. I am the host of Great Day Washington on WUSA 9 here in Washington, D.C. We're the CBS affiliate. Great Day is like a morning talk show. So I'm looking forward to speaking with some of our advocates and scientists coming up here in just a moment. But so glad that all of you are here and you are enjoying a nice full day of activity, right? At the summit. Was it great? I myself am a two-time breast cancer survivor and just thrilled to be here. Thank you. Just thrilled to be here to celebrate the work of NFCR and all the research and scientists that are here, all of you that support NFCR. So thank you so very much. We've got a great program for you coming up. Before we get started, though, before we commence with our dinner and program, we do ask that you join us in a few moments of silent reflection to give thanks for this evening and in memory of our loved ones whose battles with cancer have ended. Thank you very much. As we celebrate here tonight, it's really just going to be an incredible evening. And I just want to thank all of you for being with us all day long and really celebrating what NFCR does. So to get us kicked off, I want to bring up the CEO of NFCR, Dr. Sujan Ba.
Good evening. I love the energy in the room. After a whole long day working so hard, we still see all the spirits, all the energy. It's fantastic. And welcome to the 2023 Szent-Györgyi Prize Award dinner. And thank you for being here with us to celebrate NFCR's 50th anniversary. I hope throughout the day you have heard enough to know NFCR is all about honoring the best science and recognizing and supporting the best of the best scientists. And we have so many of them in this room. Let's give them applause. Over NFCR's past 50 years, the researchers we have supported have made some of the very significant discoveries that have led to game-changing breakthroughs and new therapies, and some of them are being used to save patients' lives today. And what we have heard over today and all those over our past 50 years is we are committed by supporting the science that really are trying to understand cancer as a genetic mutation. And we know this disease can be cured. And we, with everybody here, we know this community will make sure someday we will cure this disease. We will make cures possible. Many may still say that cancer cannot be cured. And I would say we can. All it takes is us working together, come together, and committed toward this one common goal. And NFCR has built a community of researchers and donors, supporters, volunteers, survivors, and patient care advocates, oncology entrepreneurs, and the investors. Where can you find a community that includes everybody in this whole spectrum of effort trying to find the cures? We have everything here. We are in place to take on cancer for another 50 years unless we find the cures before 50 years comes, right? So this evening, we have unveiled a copy of NFCR's 50th anniversary magazine. I'm sure you have seen this copy on your chair and flipped through and try to find out amazing things we put together. I want to give a shout out to James from Washington Media Group, and they really have jumped through all the hoops I set up for them, and they pulled this off. And thank you, James. So we have the copy here for everybody. Through the pages of this publication, you will learn more about our journey, our story, and our endeavor over 50 years, and our critical moments of accomplishment. And I'm proud to say many of those accomplishments are made possible by many of you in this room. Thank you. We showcased the achievements of some of the researchers we have funded and some of the researchers we have honored. And they have made seminal discoveries and significant breakthroughs over the past 50 years of cancer research that are saving people's lives. And we have many of the best minds in cancer research, and many of the previous SZENT-GYÖRGYI Prize winners are in this room with us. And you heard wonderful panel discussions this afternoon from all of them. Let's give them applause. And thank you for your dedication to be with us today. You guys are the superheroes and giants of cancer care. From what we started in 1973, a joint venture between Dr. Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI, a cancer researcher and a Nobel Prize winner, and effort together with Mr. and Mrs. Salisbury, Franklin Tamara Salisbury Sr., retired entrepreneur and a retired chemist. They came together, they built NFCR, they founded NFCR with one belief that NFCR is going to play a very critically needed niche role, providing the scientists the adventure funding, the exploratory funding, so that they can do blue sky research and take on the high risk, high impact projects and ask the big questions. And that's where all the breakthroughs can come through. We don't want to do just a stopgap measures science. We want to do big science, the innovative science, the things that can take us to the new frontiers and new field. And that's what NFCR was about for 50 years. And that's going to be our focus and commitment for the next 50 years. And from then to now, NFCR has met tremendous obstacles and transformed and thrived, like today, Dr. Webb Cavaney has reflected this morning. And we'll continue what others won't find. And that is, again, I said, high risk, high impact critical research that could lead life-saving discoveries. And we will continue to honor the best science and recognize and honor the best of the best cancer researchers. And NFCR has always been a very focused and mission-driven, lean but not mean, very friendly academy organizations. We are one of the best charities in the US with a 4-star charity navigator rating. So I'm very proud. Your donation is always used to the best cause. And we have been selected for the 2 years in a row as a finalist for the Maxi Award for the boldest and most innovative in business, in nonprofit business. As we celebrate our 50th year, we have doubled down to focus even more as we prepare for the future. And this year, the historic moment of our 50th anniversary, we have launched a new logo and new tagline. And for people who have been coming to our meeting years after years, you probably noticed we have a new logo and we have a new tagline. We make cures possible. This brand evolution signifies our continued commitment to focus on finding cures for all cancers by working together, by building the communities. Together, we will make cures possible. Our new branding identity and the tagline have also given us a renewed focus on who we are as an organization, why we do what we do, and the importance and impact of our work, and what success will look like when we work together and accomplish this mission. So this is a very proud moment for us to conclude the first 50 years of history and embark on another new journey for the next decades with a new logo and new taglines. We make cures possible. At the core of NFCR's DNA is a strong up-close and personal commitment to help people and save lives. And it's also up and close personal for all of us. When you come here, this is a family. This is an academy. We all feel that we are bonded with one common goal, one mission, cure cancer. And the audience this evening is different from this morning session and this afternoon session. The audience this evening comes from all walks of life. And I believe that we are the one, when we work together, we can make a lot of things impossible. Many people think impossible. We can make it possible. We can accomplish the mission of finding cures. So I invite you to be part of the movement and join NFCR to help us and take our organization, our mission to the next level and next decades. As part of the 50th anniversary celebration, we have planned a very special evening program today. And we have two very accomplished special guests, the scientists, Dr. Martin Smith and Dr. Hammer Sees join us. They too actually the connection of the past to the present and hopefully to the future. So they are two of the earliest scientists that worked with the three co-founders, Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI, Franklin and Tamara Salisbury Sr. They were two of the youngest groups in that first period of time of NFCR. And then when Franklin joined the organization and later on I joined the foundation, they continue to work with me and we have worked for decades also. So today, Martin came from California and Helmut came from Germany. You're gonna hear, they share the story of NFCR and the beginning journey and one of the very important fields that NFCR played an important role to launch and to thrive. And tonight we are also celebrating and honor our 2023 SZENT-GYÖRGYI Prize winner, Dr. Isaac Weiss, who came from war-torn Tel Aviv, Israel. He's one of the early innovative pioneers in the microenvironment of cancer. And Dr. Waits have been in touch with us since the war started. Literally on this past Wednesday, and he was able to fly out of Tel Aviv. And when he notified us that he finally safely arrived in France, his first leg of the trip after 4 different trips, booked, canceled, booked, canceled. He finally flew from Tel Aviv to France, to Montreal, and came to DC tonight. So let's give Dr. Weiss a big applause. And I want to say, Dr. Weiss and Mrs. Weiss, we are so glad you are here, safe with us. And tonight, you will hear a live dialogue of a rock star of cancer research, Dr. James Allison. By the way, he is also a music rock star too. He plays the harmonica. And Dr. James Allison will be with the 3 incredible young ladies on the stage, Hope, Katie, and Linda, and moderated by our wonderful MC, Kristen. And you will hear their insights, their dialogues about their journey as a patient survivor, cancer survivor, caregiver, and how their focus has been to help finding a cure. And I also wanted to say specifically, tonight's event was made possible by our very generous sponsors. And with your generous support, we can make our conference like today during the day and our events tonight possible. So thank you for your wonderful support. So I've been here up for a while. I know when I get up here, I can't stop, right? I love talking with all of you about our mission. So I better stop. And without further delay, let me welcome Dr. Martin Smith, who will give a short welcome remarks, and introduce our evening's keynote speaker, Dr. Hamasis, who came, like I said, from Germany to be with us today. Martin.
Well, remind me never to follow Suzanne again, okay? And please eat your salad. Go ahead. I just want to go back to the early days of NFCR and say that I first met our keynote speaker tonight, Professor Helmut Thies, in 1981 at his home in Dusseldorf in Germany after an 850-mile drive with my mentor, Sten Arrhenius, from Stockholm, often at speeds above 130 miles an hour in his purple Mercedes. And he was a close friend of Helmut. Apart from the exhilarating ride there, I remember little else about that first meeting with Professor Thies, except that there was a large Steinway piano in Professor Thies's living room, which he played beautifully that night. So scientists can be talented too in other areas, I hear. Soon after that trip, I moved to Berkeley as an assistant professor, where I became an NFCR-funded colleague of Bruce Ames and Lester Packer, and was lucky enough to have many dinner parties with the co-founders of NFCR, Franklin and Tamara Salisbury, Franklin Jr.'s parents. A year or two later, Helmut came on sabbatical to Berkeley, and we all shared many good times together discussing the potential for antioxidants, things like vitamin C and vitamin E, to protect us from free radicals. Now, I don't mean the Berkeley type, of which I am not one. I'm not wearing a tie-dye shirt or anything. But the ones that Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI thought could harm us and cause cancer. These discussions, supported financially by NFCR, had many positive outcomes, but one of the most important was Professor Cease's coining of the term oxidative stress, which I'm sure many of you heard of, to describe the consequences of free radical formation in the body. Oxidative stress is now thought to be critical in development of many different diseases in the body, including cancer and Parkinson's disease. It's also one of the so-called key characteristics of substances that cause cancer. And this led Professor Cease to actively seek chemicals that would protect us from the harmful effects of oxidative stress. His contributions in this area have been immense, and I look forward to hearing him tell you about his work and the importance of NFCR in the early days of this field in developing a laboratory without walls, which was the concept originally for this foundation. I also want to thank NFCR for supporting me at the beginning of my career when I was only 26 years old, when young scientists really need funding the most. And so please welcome Professor Helmut Cease from the University of Düsseldorf, our keynote speaker for this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, first, Martin, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And it's a great pleasure and an honor to speak to you about the early times of NFCR. But before I go into this, I would like to thank Sue John and Franklin and also Harley Hartman and the whole team for getting us here together. Let's give them a big hand. So the early times. I would like to start with Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI, who is one of the giants of the 20th century in life sciences, and his lifelong curiosity and ingenuity and activities are the root cause for NFCR. So this is Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI, who discovered vitamin C in 1937. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for that. And after the Second World War, he emigrated to the United States and went to the Woods Hole Marine Laboratory at Cape Cod and continued his research. His interest was not only vitamin C and polyphenols, but then also very fundamental work on skeletal muscle, but then cancer research. And his 4 lines of what is research is 4 things. You have to think, you have to see, you have to measure, and the 4th one is, to do this, you need money. All scientists know this, and there is a variety of ways. And before I go into this, I would like to point your attention to a colleague of Albert SZENT-GYÖRGYI. Well, let me first say something about this. when Szent-Györgyi was in Woods Hole, he of course needed instruments and personnel and consumables, and he was told, you have to put an application in, for example, to NIH. And he said, well, if I knew what I want to do next year, that's boring. I cannot write applications. And so he was in, and he mentioned this on April 19 in 1971, here in town at the National Academy of Sciences in a speech. And several journalists looked into this. And you see one of the clips, newspaper clips from that time. As I said, there are several ways to get funded, and one of that is one of his colleagues 50 years before 71, that means in 1921, and it was Otto Warburg who needed money, and they said also you have to do an application. And this is one way to do it. They said an application, he said, I don't have a secretary. So they sent him a secretary. The secretary sat down and he dictated, I need 10,000 marks, Otto Warburg. The secretary went back and he was funded next day. So it was a little more complicated for Albert Szent-Györgyi. And that is where the foundation for this, the origin of NFCR comes in. As you see here on this slide, that is Franklin Salisbury Sr. and his wife Tamara and Albert Szent-Györgyi. That newspaper clipping, well, we heard this morning from Ed Coveney that you can have nice moments of, eureka moments, like going on a mountain and looking at the sunrise, but you can also have that decisive tipping point sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper. And this is the Washington Evening Star that Dr. Salisbury was reading, and he said, I have to help him. So he sent a check of $25, which is a modest amount, maybe $100 equivalent of current dollar values. And he sent it to him, and he got a very nice personal letter back from Szent-Györgyi. And that was the starting point of the getting together. And between 71, 72, they're in several formations. There are actually the personalities of Szent-Györgyi and Salisbury have many things in common. They like to say short quips. They have no nonsense. They just go directly to the point. But they were also different. One was a scientist, and the other one was an attorney and entrepreneur. And with that mixture, and in the middle, Tamara, who did a very a wonderful job to getting things really going. So then in 73, it was chartered and it started as National Foundation for Cancer Research. And here in Washington, about 300 buses went around with these billboards, basic science first. And I think we should actually reiterate that statement also now. Although we have the application, the cure, we should not forget that the real progress is made first at the basic sciences. So that is a paper then about 10 years later of the interest that at that time by the Szent-Györgyi group. And in the years between 73 and 83, the foundation really blossomed, and they created what was called the Laboratory of Without Walls, and they instituted regional directors, and they had over 50 of those regional directors. And as you see here from one of the gatherings in Woods Hole, in the middle, in the front, you see Szent-Györgyi and Salisbury and several others. And these were an important point also, not only the closer colleagues from around the northeastern US, but very international. There were Ilya Prigozhin on thermodynamics, the Pullmans in Paris on electronic biochemistry, and many others. Keith Ingold from London and then from Ottawa. So this whole field was quite widespread, and these interactions were the foundation for the development of redox biology. One special person I would like to mention is Trevor Slater, Professor Slater from Brunel University in UK. He was working also on cancer. The cancer model he used was the carbon tetrachloride-induced liver cancer, which goes through a CCl3 radical. And at that time, also SZENT-GYÖRGYI was very interested in electron spin resonance and the then new and modern interesting methods. And so Trevor Slater from the UK made the connection to many European colleagues. This is one photo of the group in Italy, and Mario Dianzani in Torino and his group, and also in Austria, Schauenstein and Esterbauer are shown on this slide. These were the foundations for the whole research field of hydroxynonenal, which is now a very important area of also in cancer research. And small meetings happened. And then also in 93, a colleague, he was already mentioned, Lester Packer in Berkeley. He had organized in 81 the first Gordon conference on oxygen radicals. And at the second one in 83, that was taking place near Santa Barbara, a subsequent little workshop was done in Montecito, California. And that is the photo of the colleagues there. You see in the middle, in the front, SZENT-GYÖRGYI and Frank Salisbury and several others. I think Martin Smith, who just you heard him talk, is on the second row and the second from the right, and I'm sort of behind SZENT-GYÖRGYI, and several other colleagues were there that led the interest in the redox biology field. So this was a pivotal meeting. And then in 84, this shows the interaction with Bruce Ames and Lester Packer, and Martin Smith and myself are also on this slide. That was the time when the oxy-R regulon was discovered, and which later on has been very influential in methods in the chemogenetic topics that can now be addressed. I have just one slide to show the development from the back times to now, and that shows in the current ideas, because oxidative stress is not something only negative. The interesting point, and that is the result of research of the recent years, if you look on the left side in the green, we are actually dependent on a low level of oxidants that regulate, they talk to the proteins to tell them what to do for proliferation, differentiation, also, but for programmed cell death and so on. Several topics that were discussed during the day this morning. And if one overdoes the antioxidants, one gets below the physiological level, and that is detrimental. So one has to maintain the homeostasis, which is actually a term that should be changed to homeodynamics, because we are even when we sleep, our metabolism is very active. And so we are in a homeodynamic state. And then if you go further to the right, if there is an increasing load of external oxidants and other carcinogens, and so on. And then there's the adaptive responses, which is now known under the name of hormesis, but the stress responses, heat shock responses, and so on, unfolded protein responses. And then it gets to the activation of inflammatory response, and so on, and finally, cell death. So there is a continuum between the normal and the supranormal levels. And on the very left, you see that with our nutrition and lifestyle, we have intervention that possibilities for prevention, which was a very important term this morning in the discussions. So prevention is something that is even of interest before a cure. And of course, on the right-hand side, you see the current state of redox medicine, which needs to be much more specific and precision. And that is something to look forward to the future. And I would like to conclude again with thanks to the Salisbury family and the Franklin and Tamara and Sue John and Franklin Jr. Who are present here, and the whole team, and also all the donors that helped NFCR make possible. So with the, and speaking for many of the researchers that have been fortunate to be funded by the NFCR, I would like to express my deep thanks, and thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sees. It's so funny. I look around this room and just listening to everything, and I feel so inferior to all these incredible minds that are in this room right now. But NFCR has helped me learn, and I learned so much from all of you in this room, and that's what this is all about. So thank you so very much. I can't wait to expand a little bit more this evening. Hopefully you enjoyed your salads. Dinner is going to be served now, so we're going to take about a 30-minute break while you all enjoy your meal, and then we will do the presentation after dinner. So enjoy.
I'm Alfred Slanitz. I am CEO of Genius Biotechnology Company. So the thing that I see about NFCR that's very distinctive compared to even other organizations in the cancer space is that mission to really fund the research, which is completely novel and paradigm shifting, that can lead to a completely new modality in cancer, or to take products from that early preclinical laboratory work all the way into the first in man patients studies that need to be done. A lot of therapies that are out there today wouldn't have even made it without the funding that NSCR provided at that critical point of time. I think that the way that it's expanded is to really assure that those therapies get into patients more. I think the funding of translational research, as opposed to just the basic research, is something that's evolved over the last few years as part of the mission. And I think it's a very important one.
My name is Susan Van Horwitz. I have just become an emerita professor at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine after working there for 52 years on the faculty. And I have to say that the funds that I've received over the last 15 years from the National Foundation for Cancer Research has been extraordinarily helpful. It's allowed me to do different experiments that I would not have been able to do without that funding. They have also supported a collaboration between my work and Professor Amos Smith from the University of Pennsylvania, who's a superb chemist. And together with his chemistry and my pharmacology and biochemistry, we've been able to do experiments that we wouldn't have been able to do previously. And I think that we have to recognize that today one has to have a variety of collaborations. Science is so complex. Cancer is such a complex disease that to approach it, we need to know a lot. And we have to have backgrounds in many different types of science. So collaborations is absolutely the way to go. One can't do it alone anymore.
Ron DePino, University of Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center. Well, I have had a very varied career where I've been involved in starting biotechnology companies, running large academic institutions, conducting basic science, and taking care of patients. And those varied perspectives gave me an appreciation that to make an impact, to bring discoveries and knowledge to the point where it benefits patients and reduces pain and suffering, really requires the collective capabilities of diverse entities, diverse disciplines to be able to affect change. Well, cancer is one of the great mysteries of all time. And to crack that mystery really requires an investment in unfettered basic science. And NFCR has played an important role in illuminating the deepest mysteries of cancer and how it progresses and ultimately takes lives. And so it has figured very prominently in that regard. In addition, it has now turned its attention to converting that knowledge into patient impact. And it does through its Aim High program. But I think one of the most important things that the NFCR has done is to convene groups that are from different disciplines, the entrepreneurs, the venture capitalists, the academics, the policymakers, government, all coming together around this shared mission to make cancer history, and to do so using the collective capabilities of those diverse groups.
program. So if you're still eating, go ahead and eat. We'll have dessert in a little bit. But we are going to do our award presentation here. So if I can get everybody's attention, I'd like to bring up our 2022 Albert Szent-Györgyi Prize winner, Dr. Rakesh Jain. If you could come on up, please. Is he in here? Is Dr. Jain in here? I can't see. He may have stepped out. I like the cheers that are happening at the tables, the friends that are being made. And I know so many of you have had such an incredibly full day, so we're so glad you're still celebrating with us. Of course. You guys can keep talking amongst yourselves. We'll get started in just a moment. I'll come back up here in a moment. Actually, you know what? Here's a good time to, since you guys enjoyed your delicious dinner, you may have noticed the beautiful centerpieces that are on your table. So these centerpieces are going to go home with one of you at each table tonight. You're going to be a lucky winner. So tonight's ceremony is named after, of course, Dr. Albert Szent-Györgyi. He celebrates a birthday on September 16th. So ask around your tables, whoever has a birthday closest to September 16th, that floral centerpiece is yours to take home. September 16th, whoever has the closest. If a couple of you are close, you can fight over who's going to take it home, but those are our gift to you. So enjoy those, please. All right, I'm going to get your attention again one more time. We're going to start with our award presentation for real this time because we're really excited about this part of it. So your 2022 Szent-Györgyi Prize winner, Dr. Rakesh Jain.
Good evening. Hope you're enjoying this Oscar party. It's really a privilege for me to participate in this event. And I would like to, on the behalf of my committee members, awards committee members, it's my distinct honor as chair of the 2023. Thank you. Sue John remembers all the details. Amazing. Yeah. 2023 Prize Selection Committee to introduce our 2023 prize winner, Professor Isaac Witz, on behalf of the committee. The selection committee elected Professor Witz of Tel Aviv University for his early and ongoing scientific contributions towards understanding that the crosstalk between tumor cells and its microenvironment, made up of normal cells, tissues, and fluids, are critical for tumor growth and metastasis. At the beginning of his scientific career in the 1960s, Professor Witz focused on the immune system, while other cancer immunologists used human blood or spleen or lymph nodes from animals as a source for tumor-reactive immune cells and antibodies. He explored the impact of antibodies eluted from growing tumors to explore their function. His early work and discoveries show that the immune response can take place at the tumor-host interface. Importantly, he demonstrated experimentally that the antibody response in the tumor microenvironment can promote tumor growth. These early research discoveries demonstrated that immune components are localized in the tumor microenvironment and can impact tumor biological functions such as growth. These findings and other research from his lab were novel at the time and elucidated the reality that tumor cells hijack physiological mechanisms, including those that provide escape from harmful anti-tumor responses. These achievements prompted the foundation for certain aspects of contemporary immunotherapy that benefit cancer patients today, as well as promoted a new field targeting the tumor microenvironment for tumor control. It's important to note that Professor Witt's most significant accomplishments were made in the 1970s through 1990s, when cancer research was dominated by the cancer cell-centric view of cancer, that oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes in the cancer cell were deemed sufficient to determine tumor progression and metastasis. Going against this prevailing dogma, he used 333 cells transformed in vitro with polyoma virus, which was subsequently selected in vivo for high tumorigenicity. By comparing in vivo and in vitro tumor growth of the same clones and the ability of the in vivo growth to select more aggressive subclone variants, this paper is one of the most compelling documents of the early tumor microenvironment research. And it is the first one to demonstrate that the microenvironment factors, in addition to cancer intrinsic properties, are key conspirators in conferring aggressive tumor behavior. Professor Wick's idea faced a great deal of skepticism because they did not comply with one of the central dogmas of the modern quantitative biology, which follows a purely reductionist approach for studying one component or molecule to understand a large system. Professor Wicks made conceptual changes in the way of approaching cancer research from reductionist to a more holistic point of view, and this in itself is a great achievement. One more notable distinguishing characteristic of Professor Wicks is that he is a tireless champion and nurtured the nascent tumor microenvironment field. To this end, he organized dedicated international meetings beginning 1978 and founded and led International Cancer Microenvironment Forum in 1996. He also founded International Cancer Microenvironment Society in 2002 and served as its president until 2015. Some fields also take longer to develop than others and need sustained advocacy to break through. By virtue of his own work and his advocacy throughout his entire career, Professor Wicks was a major catalyst for the tumor microenvironment field and fostered a clear inflection point in his prominence, both in scientific research and focus, as well as a focus for current therapeutic development. And now I would like to ask my co-chair, Dr. Sujwan Ba, co-chair of the 2023 SZENT-GYÖRGYI Prize Selection Committee, to join me at the podium. Sujwan. So on behalf of the SZENT-GYÖRGYI Prize Committee, we award Professor Wicks the 2023 SZENT-GYÖRGYI Prize for Progress in Cancer Research for his paradigm-shifting contribution, which have proved central to our understanding of the tumor microenvironment and paved the foundation for current immunotherapies and his tireless advocacy of this emerging field. Professor Wicks, please come to the podium and accept the award. Let's all give a hand, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. You want me to give it to him? Yeah.
You have
All by himself. Congratulations. Welcome. Please.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. I actually hardly recognize myself. This was more than I expected. I really want to thank the selection committee of the szent-Györgyi Prize, headed by Rakesh and Suzanne. And let me tell you that I'm really feeling very proud of joining the community of giants. And this is really great, great, great. I would also like to thank the nominators and the supporters, if any, of my candidature. And finally, before I start to talk, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Bertagnoli for receiving the AIM High Prize. The slide is much more ahead of than I expected. Okay, my relationship with the cancer ecosystem started between. I can advance the slides myself. Okay. Started between 65 and 68 at Roswell Park Memorial Institute in Buffalo, New York. I worked with David Pressman, a very well-known immunochemist and cancer immunologist at the time. And David sent me to a meeting. It doesn't advance, so may I have the next slide, please? He sent me to a meeting, and there I listened to Frank Dixon, who was a very, very famous immunologist doing research on autoimmunity. And he was working on autoimmune glomerulonephritis.
and it was known that this is an autoimmune disease. He was looking for antibodies to antigens of the glomeruli, couldn't find them. So he thought maybe these antibodies are mopped up by the glomeruli. And indeed, if you see there on your right is a glomerulus or of a patient. On your left is a control, completely negative. So this gave me a good idea. I went back to the lab, looked at the red hepatomas that we were working at. There were no antibodies against these red hepatomas in the blood. But I then tried to look whether antibodies, at that time we didn't know there are antibodies, we just looked for immunoglobulins, if they are fixed on tumor cells. And indeed, we found that these red hepatomas were coated with immunoglobulins. Normal liver was hardly coated. So this was the start, actually, of my relationship with the cancer microenvironment, or like I like to call it now, the cancer ecosystem. I established my own lab at Tel Aviv University in '68 and continued to work in the 70s on cancer-associated immunoglobulins at various points. The main thing was that the coating was very heterogeneous. There were antibodies that were bound through the antigen binding site. There were antibodies that were bound, quote unquote, non-specifically to the FC, to the FC portion. And the main finding was that these cancer-associated immunoglobulins usually tended to promote cancer. At a certain point, I realized that antibodies are not the only manifestation of the tumor, of anti-tumor immunity. And there is also another component, which possibly the most important one, cellular immunity. So I organized in '78 at Tel Aviv University a workshop that was supported by the International Union Against Cancer on what I called in situ tumor immunity. The slides don't show everything. In my computer they did, but now they don't. The head is cut off sometimes. Anyway, I really cannot read what's there, so maybe you read for yourself what's written there. It's too far away for me. Well, the point is, this is the actual introduction to the book that came out at that time. You can now buy it for about $50 from. I don't get anything from that, so don't. The main message there was that that in order to understand tumor growth, tumor proliferation, tumor progression, one has to look at immune components within the tumor. So this is what I continue to do. And let me remind you that all this happened in a period where cancer research was dominated by, as mentioned by Rakesh before, was dominated by the concept that oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes are the A and the Z of cancer development. And everything else was labeled. Again, I don't see the bottom here. It's cut off. And this is very important because I was faced not once, maybe twice or three times, with the word epiphenomena. If you then described the tumor microenvironment, I heard at least twice the very hurting word epiphenomenon. In other words, a phenomenon that shouldn't be taken seriously. We continued in the 80s to work on the tumor microenvironment, mainly innate immunity, both cellular as well as humoral. And the end of the 80s were really a switch in my understanding. I left, not completely, of course, the immune microenvironment and started to look at the other components of the cells that are in the interface between the cancer cells and the non-cancerous cells. And this is the experiment. Actually, Rakesh told it to you before, so maybe I can skip it. Anyway, let me just show you that when we wanted to see what the environment does to the cancer, remembering what I heard from Maurice Black, that the tumor is surrounded by the patient, in our case by the mouse, in order to see if the environment really affects the progression of cancer, you should try to get cancer cells which are virgins with respect to influences of the environment of the patient, of the mouse. So we transformed cells, mouse cells with polyomavirus, injected them. These cells made tumors, and then we took the tumors out. This is one passage in the mouse, and put them back into culture. So the original cells were C, culture cells, and the other cells were CTC, culture, tumor, culture. Now, looking now at and this is the real figure from the paper. On your right, you see the cells that were originally transformed in vitro. They've never seen a mouse before, and they make tumors very, very, very slowly. The first tumor appeared in the mouse after quite a long time, and it took a lot of time to reach 100%. But on your left, look at the CTC cells. What one passage in vivo, what could it do to these cells? It's enhanced tremendously, significantly, their ability to form tumors. A second passage in the mouse was also went in the same direction, but much less. We then in the 90s, we looked at very pathobiological interactions in the microenvironment. I don't have time to go. And we were especially interested in the interaction of cancer cells with components of the extracellular matrix. Now, these are cells, clone cells, that were in vitro, in the test tube, either grown with one component of the extracellular matrix, laminin, on your right. No, is it on your right? Yes. No, on your left. You see the cells that were grown on fibronectin. As you can see, the same cells grown under two microenvironments, they look very, very, very different. The same experiment was done in vivo. We again grew the cells on either protein and so on, and then injected them and looked for lung metastases. As you can see, that both interaction with the two extracellular matrix proteins, laminin and fibronectin, enhanced very much metastasis. So the result here is the microenvironment is bad for you. It enhances tumor. Is that really so? Recently, well, not recently, we started to work on metastases in the 2000s. And as you can see on your, here, on your left is a brain metastasizing melanoma cell in red, and green is a microenvironmental cell called microglia. These are the macrophages of the brain. At the left, they like each other. In the lab, we joke, we say they make love to each other. But there are other cells that behave differently. Look at the green cell, which is the microglia, the macrophage. It kills the melanoma cell. So we conclude that the tumor microenvironment is actually double phase, Janus double phase. It can either, by various components, enhance and cause a progression or regression of tumors, and if the two types of factors, one enhancing, one inhibiting tumor, if they cancel each other, then we get a situation of a dormancy, which the patient is okay, but there are cells that are dormant in his body. Most of today's literature, well, not today, but let's go 2-3 years ago, was that the microenvironment is bad for you. But then we saw an article by George Klein, said, why do we not die of cancer at an early age? And he reviewed several mechanisms for that. One, of course, is the immune response. We didn't need George Klein for that. We had already Steve Rosenberg for that, and later on Jim. Now, but a mechanism that he postulated is what is called microenvironment control. In other words, that the interaction of cancer cells with non-cancerous cells in the microenvironment, actually this contact can possibly hold a cancer development. And indeed, we could show in two different papers, one published in 2017, the other one, which you don't see because it is circumcised, was just published. Oh, you see it in 2023. Well, I only see the bad thing. I just wanted to mention things that Rakesh thought about my extracurricular activities. We arranged international congresses all over the world. We created the international cancer tumor microenvironment, and just to show the popularity of tumor, or the The popularity of tumor microenvironment is a function of time. If you go on your if you go on your right to the extreme thing, this is where our first findings were discovered. The real pickup of the tumor microenvironment occurred around the 2000s. And as you can see, now there is a huge number of papers that are all dedicated to the tumor microenvironment. Where do we go from here? I was very proud that the selection committee picked up a thing that by most people is not picked up, and this is my, I would say, my preaching that the cancer problem should actually be solved by an holistic approach. And just to show you here two articles, one from 2008 and one from the review I was asked to write about the history of cancer microenvironment in 2018. In both cases, I have two other publications that preach, because I don't know how to do it, a holistic approach to the interactions between cancer and the environment. This is to thank my devoted group, and they're really terrific. And also my present collaborators, Dave Hoon, who is here, and Wuyan Lu, now in Fudan. I also take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming, friends and colleagues. A very great and thank you to Holly Hartman for really, she's a terrific person and a great administrator. And also, I want to thank my family, who now spend some of the time in rocket shelters. And finally, thank you, Smadar, for being my spouse and friend. Thank you. Sorry for overtime.
I have a box for you.
You get all the time you want.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sit down. Congratulations.
No, Holly Hartman really, really was very, very decisive. No?
don't really need a play-by-play of what's going on up here, but we are going to have a panel discussion for you coming up right now. Some incredible folks are going to join me up here on stage. We're just getting this quick change done. Dr. Woods, congratulations once again. Thank you so very much. Our 2023 prize winner. He really didn't want to go over time. He did pretty good, I would say. He apologized. I'm like, it's your night. You're the man of the hour. Take all the time that you need. All right, if I could get my panelists all up here, Katie, Linda, Hope, Dr. Allison, come on up and join me, please. Yeah, one more. Katie, come on. Yeah, I think they have it all. We are live from the National Press Club. This is being streamed. It's called Cancer News Worth Sharing. And we wanted to have this discussion with this panel here because, of course, we're all in this fight together. We're all working towards a cure. But we all come from different backgrounds. We have different experiences. And it's more to emphasize the fact that every little thing that each of us in this room and each of us at home are doing is working towards the mission of NFCR, of working to find that cure. So I want to introduce my panel. We have Katie Gray. She is NFCR's youth ambassador. So she's going to tell a little bit of her story in a moment. We have Hope Stewart, a cancer survivor and also community outreach ambassador with NFCR. And we have Linda Basak, a community outreach ambassador as well with NFCR. And I think one of Dr. Ba's newest friends. We're going to hear that story in a little bit. And then, I mean, the man at the end really needs no introduction, right? Dr. James Allison, the 2014 St-Györgyi Prize winner and the 2018 Nobel Prize winner. So thank you all for being a part of this. Katie, I want to start with you. It's very rare to see a young person out here speaking so openly about cancer and the fight against cancer. What was your first, how did you first become involved with NFCR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think about 3 years ago, my grandmother passed away from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And that was kind of the moment, it was during the peak of COVID. It was kind of when I realized like I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. And I think especially for younger generations like my own, it's really normalized for cancer and cancer research to kind of be a taboo topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's a scary subject for people to bring up. And I think the more awareness we bring to it, the more we talk about it, the more we do, the easier it becomes, and the easier it becomes to do things like this where we can help each other and help our community and be able to find the cure to things. So I think my start was with my grandmother, and through kind of research of different foundations, NFCR was the one that had the most interaction with people my age and the most that I could do rather than just donating money or finding people to donate money. I've been able to kind of interact with people hands-on to help be a part of this community and help NFCR.
I think that's what's most important is that NFCR is an incredible resource for anybody, whether
Absolutely.
you know a lot or a little, right, about cancer, and especially coming as a caregiver and probably didn't know a lot about cancer itself. And you know, you're living your teenage life. It wasn't something you expected. What kind of resource was NFCR for you?
So I think not kind of knowing, seeing my grandmother in that phase where she was like in the prime of her battle with cancer is like a very hard thing to see at such a young age, or at any age for that matter. It's a very hard thing to see. And having the resource of NFCR to kind of figure out, to be in touch with people directly and have the website, have everything to be able to figure out what actually was going on, what I could do to help directly, how I could find those resources to be able to help those around me and kind of raise awareness for it, be able to actually help,
Right.
and then also just know what's actually going on, be able to understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's definitely important in anybody's case. Thank you. We're going to come back to you in a bit. Hope, I want to go to you. You're cancer survivor, thriver. This personally has touched you with breast cancer. But how did you come involved with NFCR, and just what is the message that you put out into the community that you think is most important?
Well, as you mentioned, May 2002, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal HER2 positive cancer, which, is a fancy way of saying breast cancer. And it was a shock to me. I had no family history. I had no symptoms. And there's a fundraiser my mom attends every year. It's called Daffodils and Diamonds. And who in this crowd attends Daffodils and Diamonds? I'd like to hear. Yeah,
I do.
woohoo. Wonderful.
That's pretty
It
good.
was a wonderful fundraiser. I'd never been. And my mom said, listen, you really need to go because I've heard these wonderful things from this organization, these amazing breakthroughs. And so I went there and I met Dr. Ba and I got involved. And I just wish I'd known about this organization sooner. I really didn't. And I think it really would have helped me at the time. I was most scared and most terrified. I was overwhelmed and I just needed to find the right information. And one of my friends said to me, and this gave me comfort, she said, every day, about 1,000 breakthroughs are made in cancer research. Now, this might be an overstatement, and you all probably know that statistic better than me, but the comfort came from knowing that there are people like you who dedicate your lives to saving my life.
Thank you very much. Well, and I know too, as somebody that's gone through this twice, and it was a span of 7 years, just how much and how quickly advancements are happening. I may not understand much of what these brilliant brains in this room, the scientists, are saying, but I know that they're working for us and they're working for you. And just going back and going through it again, just seeing how far we've come in such a short amount of time. Obviously, we're working towards that cure, but finding those medicines, finding those treatments, it helps, the patients like us and the patients like your loved ones really either have an easier time or prolong life. So thank you for sharing that. Linda, I love this story because you just met Dr. Ba like a week ago. How did this happen?
So I'm a dance fitness instructor at One Life Fitness, which is a gym chain, a local gym chain. And we just did a fundraiser for the foundation last Saturday. And Dr. Ba attended my class, my dance class. And my class is, my purpose in my class is to infuse the community with positivity, positive vibes, very important. And so she attended my class. I guess she liked what she saw and she felt the vibes and she invited me to become an ambassador for the foundation right there and then. And she asked me to attend. And this was very personal to me because my father passed away from colon cancer this past May. And before he died of cancer, his cancer happened, we discovered it really at the last minute. Within 6 days after we had discovered his cancer, he had died. He went into emergency surgery and he did not, he survived 3 days after that. Before he passed away, I was aware of cancer research and I knew how important it was. We did several fundraisers at the gym for cancer and other causes. But once he died of cancer, it became super personal to me. My awareness increased 1,000-fold. And every word that I said while I was promoting the fundraiser was 1,000,000 times more meaningful than it was before. And it made me realize that what's personal to me today was personal to my neighbor yesterday, will be personal to my friend tomorrow. So it means that it's not a me or her or his or their issue, it's a us issue, it's a community issue. And now that there's cancer history in my family, now I have to get checked every couple of years. And now my daughters, I have 2 girls, one is 19, one is 20. I'm sorry, 18 and 20.
Don't rush it.
Yeah,
don't rush it.
Don't rush it. Now I had to talk to them about it as well. So it became a generational issue, and we added one layer on top of that. And another layer I added on top of it that brought my awareness even more to the fore is my dad died in Africa, in Cameroon. And the surgery that was performed on him, we talked to doctors that were here. If he had had the surgery performed here, he would have survived. So third world countries don't have the resources and the infrastructure and the technologies that developed countries have. So the issue becomes global, and we all know that. So that gave me just the courage and the determination to talk about cancer research and how important it is to find a cure for cancer.
Very much so. Thank you, Linda. And we know how blessed we are to have the medical system that we have in this country and the access to the treatments, and especially up in this area specifically, we're very blessed up here, but knowing that the goal is to eradicate cancer
Yes.
worldwide, and when there is a lot of work to do there. So thank you. Dr. Allison, are you enjoying your evening?
Very much so.
Good to see you down there. We know your research has led to life-saving treatments for people that otherwise had very little hope. But I know just as important as the research to you are your patients, right? And I know you really try and get out of the lab and really go and talk to the patients. Do you have a story or a moment that you can share with us of what really put into perspective the work that you all do?
Well, I don't really see patients. I'm a researcher.
But you've seen those that have received your medicine, right?
But the thing that I learned was, of course, I had experienced cancer through my family.
Yeah.
Also, my mother, both my uncles, my brother, and more recently myself. But I really wanted to do something about it. Did the work, but it was mice, mostly. And then finally we got into the clinic, and it started being people. But while the trials started, when they just first started, I just saw reports. I saw numbers. I saw, statistics and stuff. And I hadn't really met a patient. And one day, Jed Walchuk, when I was at Sloan Kettering at the time, Jed called me and said, "Come down to the outpatient clinic." And I said, "Why? I'm busy." And he said, "Well, come on down here." I said, "Okay." So I walked. It was about 4 blocks or so away. Anyhow, walked into this room, and it was him actually, and a couple of people standing aside, but a very tall woman, and she came over and just hugged me and lifted me. I mean, I thought she was going to break a rib. I mean, it was amazing how. And then Jed told me that she had just been declared cancer-free after metastatic melanoma. And then I learned her story. She was 22 years old in 2003, I think. And she, got winded. She was an athlete. She could, anyway, got tired. So she went to see her doctor, and long and short, they diagnosed her with metastatic melanoma. She had 31 mets in her lungs. She had 20 or so in her liver. She had 1 in her brain. Was a bad case, and she failed. Jed put her on chemo, and it didn't work. Another chemo, it didn't work. Radiation therapy. She has this photo she showed me later of when she's getting the radiation. She got this, it looks like a torture one on her head, with the radiation. Anyway, none of that worked. And finally they said, "We got this new drug, ipilimumab. It's never been used before. It's being tested now in the clinic." I mean, some people had gotten it, but it was very early. Anyway, and she said, they told her it's either it's a few weeks, you got hospice, or we can try this if you want, but there's no guarantee. And anyway, said that she'd left and then come back, and they had seen shrinkage in the previous check, but this one was the second check. And actually, she was tumor free. And Jed also told me later, he said when she came in, and he called for the pathologist, the radiologist, to tell him what the film showed. I said, "There must be a mistake because I can't find any cancer. It's the wrong patient." And they checked it all, and numbers and all that stuff, and it was her, and there was not any cancer detectable. And so that's when it really hit home to me that it's not. This is that hope. This is real.
This is real. The work that you do, that all of you do, is really working, and you guys are still friends to this day.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm walking back to the lab, though. I have to share this. I was thinking stupid thoughts, some of them, but one of them was, "Yeah, I've cured a lot of mice, but they bite me and pee on me anyway when I pick them up." Of course, I gave them the cancer in the first place, so maybe. Maybe I deserved it, but anyway, no. Sharon and I became really good friends, and she was 24 by then. I mean, through all this, it was, and I actually asked her to be my guest in Stockholm when I went for the Nobel Prize. So she accompanied me there, and we stayed in touch. She actually got married. She was divorced, and then I got married again. She has 2 children now who are, by now last I saw them, they were both in junior high school.
Yeah.
Now they're finishing high school, but few years ago, she was getting married for a second time and asked me to marry her. So I went and got a divinity degree online and did so.
And the rest is history, right?
But anyway, it's Sharon. I have quite a bond with her, and after that, I met the patients.
Yeah.
But, I just brought back my mother and my brother, and all the people that I know. Sort of, I guess, just all wrapped up in her being the first patient. And
That's incredible.
anyway, it's.
And she's one of many patients that, all of the doctors have helped and all of you have helped. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. I also appreciate that. And that's more the stories that we want to hear. Some may not understand exactly what's happening, but knowing that there's hope out there, right? For whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
Katie, what do you see when you talk to people your age? I remember, you're in college and you're a teenager and you think nothing can happen to you, right? And for many of us, I remember when I was diagnosed at 27, we knew of cancer, but I didn't know anybody that had it, right? I didn't even know my grandmother had it at that point. It wasn't something that was talked about. So what are you finding when you actually just kind of put it out there and break down those barriers of communication?
Yeah, I think especially for people my age, the younger kind of generation, it's something that you talk about, and there is that sense of oh, we're invincible. That's not going to happen to us until it does happen, or it happens to someone you love, and then it really hits home. And after that, you realize maybe you're not so invincible. And so I think realizing the fact that it's not just a rare thing that occurs. Unfortunately, we live in a world where this is happening to people, and I think that's part of the importance of talking about it and bringing this awareness to it, is that we have to come to realize that this is something that's important, and that this is something that we all need to help out in order to find the cures, find what we need to find, and be a part of this kind of.
So I have to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have to say, since you found out about your grandmother and you started kind of helping to raise awareness, how much money have you raised through all your efforts?
So I've been working with NFCR the past 3 years and 10 days to be exact. But I've raised a little over, I think, $18,000.
Had to put that out there because that's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
That's pretty incredible, Katie. Thank you. Hope, as somebody that's gone through it physically, personally, what kind of helps you through that journey? And just you and I both did proton radiation, which was newer for breast cancer treatments at the time when we were doing it. And we had to fight for it, right? We had to fight the insurance company for it. But what kind of helped you, and what have you really learned going through this journey of the little steps that you can take to help others be aware and help all of us kind of continue that fight?
Well, the one thing that really helped me, and we're here tonight, and we have the scientists, the researchers, the donors, the advocates, the investors, and we're here talking to, advocates and caregivers and survivors. But the group that we don't talk about a lot are the nurses. And the nurses are really the ones who I think saved my life and got me through this. And they're the ones that we really need to think about when we're putting our efforts into these cures, because I think every patient that's saved from this disease kind of gives these nurses a reason for understanding why their sleepless nights, their hard work, their daily sacrifices are worthwhile. And I think that's important. And the other thing I think is just from a personal level, they talk about bravery, they talk about fighters. And I think that every single person who starts this journey will never realize how strong or brave they are. And that's what I tell people when they come to me and they say, do you have any advice? And I would say, you will never know how brave you are or realize how brave you are, because that moment you get that message through my chart or that call from your doctor, and you have to answer that call or you have to check that message in my chart that tells you the results, that's bravery, and that's what's going to get you through this.
I love it. We're all much stronger than we are. And I know too, with
are.
even the researchers, you come up against walls, you come up against frustrations, and sometimes you just want to be like, why is this so difficult? And I just want to give up, and you don't. And that's what makes you come out on the other side stronger, healthier, with a big breakthrough. It's really a lot of brave people in this room for sure.
It is, and the researchers, the reason that you do it is that so when we do get that diagnosis, we know, okay, we've got this, and now we'll hit the next hurdle and the next one, and we will get through this because there are people who are making sure that we will get there.
Well, and I know a lot of we're talking about being a community and each of us doing our part, right? And I think it's not about, I mean, it's wonderful to raise the much needed funds. It's wonderful to speak out. It's wonderful, but even just calling a cancer patient, calling somebody that's going through it, each of us taking those little bitty steps is continuing this push forward and continuing us to work as a community. I know some people get overwhelmed sometimes of like, I can't hold a fundraiser, or it's just not their personality, it's not their type, it makes them nervous. Or even just to talk about it, but just to even learn, go to the NFCR website and just learn a little bit of something about the breakthroughs we've had, really continues to push our mission forward. And Linda, you talked about how now you have to have this conversation with your kids. And I know the three of us were talking earlier about, Hope, you were saying a story of a little girl saw you with cancer and was like, oh, I hope I don't get cancer. And the mom being like, oh, don't worry, don't worry. We need to change that conversation and be like, if you do, you'll be okay, right? How are you speaking with your children about it?
Well, just because this cancer was such a surprise in our family. And just knowing that grandpa went through it makes it really real, right? And that it happens to every family. We all know somebody who's been touched some kind of way by cancer, directly or indirectly. So it's really common nowadays. So it's not like the big bad bear anymore. It's something that's around us all the time. So the fact that there's researchers out there doing this great work to try to find a cure makes it less scary. So that's how I approached it with my kids.
Amazing. And Dr. Allison, I want to end with you. You've spent years researching, working, getting these breakthroughs, but what keeps you motivated when you get up against that wall, or what you thought might work didn't quite work? What can you share with us to kind of?
Well, it's a little complicated. I mean, I lost family members. And same time since I was about 13 or 14, I knew I wanted to be a scientist. And I knew I wanted to. My father wanted me to go to medical school, but when I started college, I decided I wanted to be in biological science and stuff. So I was trained in biochemistry, but I heard about the immune system. The T cells had just been discovered actually about the time I was in graduate school. This is 67 or so, and I heard about these cells that go through the body, and I thought, well, and so
there's something there.
And my professor couldn't tell me anything about them. I said, how does they work? How do they recognize stuff? How do they get turned on? What do they do? And he said, I don't think they even exist. I think they're just macrophages that have picked up an antibody molecule. So, but anyway, I just said that's what I'm going to do. So when I finished school, I quit. I kept doing biochemistry, but I went to an immunology lab to learn it, and then that was in the early 70s, and it's still trying to solve T cells mysteries, but I kept going with that, with the idea of doing something in cancer is the long goal, but the shorter goals, the day-to-day goals, were to learn more about it. How does it work? Because I figured unless we know how, if we figure out how they work, then we can get them to do what we want and guide them a little bit. And if we don't know how they work, we're helpless. So I just wanted to understand them. So I mean, it's a combination of those things. The desire to know how something works, but also if I get this right, it may take a while, but maybe I can figure out something that I can use to treat cancer.
And you figured it out. We're grateful. We're grateful for you and everybody that continues to do that research, and grateful for all of you ladies too. Again, cancer is going to affect each of us some way or another. That's the honest truth. And so we just need to be ready for it, whether it's through education, through advocacy, whichever way. So really, we just want to encourage all of you to continue helping us, to find that cure, but call a neighbor that has just been diagnosed, offer to help in some way. Reach out to a local organization, or just do your own, research on it. That is helping. But we just appreciate all of you being here with us tonight. And thank you to our panelists for a great discussion. Thank you so very much for being so vulnerable with us. All right. You all can head on back. Thank you. We got so many walks of life and generations that it affects everybody. And, I especially love seeing our young folk being out there and really helping raise awareness and advocacy. So many of us can more so understand what's happening to our loved ones, what's happening around us. It's really been an incredible evening. Thank you all for being here and listening with us and engaging with all of us. Before we close out, I do want to bring up Dr. Alfred Slandis, Chairman of NFCR Board, CEO, Genius Biotechnology. He's going to close us out for the evening. I've been honored to be here with all of you and really learned so much about NFCR. So thank you for having me. So Doctor, thank you. Dr. Baugh, thank you very much for having me here. We really appreciate all the work you do. Dr. Slandis, come on up.
All right. Well, good evening, and thank you to our wonderful master of ceremonies. I'm Alfred Slandis. I'm the chairman of the NFCR board and also president of a biotech company, Genius Biotechnology. And usually I don't like to be the last speaker for any event, but for this one, I'm actually quite pleased to have this opportunity to share the closing remarks. And what I've seen at NFCR recently, which has really been at full display throughout the day here at this event, it's going to help change the world. And Sujan said this in her remarks earlier tonight, and I agree with her, that, with all the work of all the good people here and NFCR, cancer is a disease that can and will be cured. And throughout the event, I've just been taken with the talent that's in attendance here from all walks of life. Likely the people here are the ones that will be able to find the cure for cancer. And every part of the ecosystem, whether it's, scientists, patients, survivors, policymakers, media advocates, and those who financially support us in our collective quest to find these cures are all part of the cure. So right now, NSCR is at a critical point in our evolution. We've come a long way in the past 50 years, and we're positioned well for the next 50 years and even more significant for the cancer research community. And highlighting it sort of in our cancer magazine, you've seen that we've contributed really investing in research that other sources wouldn't fund at those critical points to support these scientists. And we've developed products because of this kind of initial funding in terms of free radicals, antioxidants, microenvironment modification, angiogenesis, right? Avastin and other drugs along those lines, oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes, targeted therapies, immunotherapy, genomic research, metastasis, genetics, computational biology, cancer. I mean, a number of these technologies, right, started because of many of the advances in scientists that this organization sponsored over the past 50 years and are now really transforming the treatment of cancer for patients. And many of the people here tonight have played significant roles in that. As we look towards the next chapter of NSCR, making cures possible, it won't just happen. It's going to require all of us doing our part. And it's going to take funding. It's going to take more volunteers. It's going to take cancer advocates like the ones that we just saw on this panel. It's going to take expanding our visibility so that many more know the message and impact of the collective work that NFCR cancer-led research has done for our community. And it's going to take connectors, media influencers, all these people, right, from all walks of life that are here tonight to do this. And to help in our fundraising event, we will be starting, as of this year, regional dinner events in conjunction with some of our longtime and most engaged donors and supporters across the country. And I'd like to recognize Arnold and Helen Klein, who tonight are over here right at the table, who actually opened their home to us and their relationships as part of this. And thank you, Arnold and Helen, for your help and support over the years. Yeah. And the concept is that this is a community of people with different backgrounds and experiences in different parts of the world, right? In different parts of the country, who are working together really to as part of the cure for cancer. And if we can continue the momentum that we have here tonight and the energy that we have here tonight, throughout the 50th year of this great institution, we can actually advance ourselves to a much higher level in terms of achieving the goal of the cure. So I'd like to also take this chance to thank the NFCR staff, all of those people who are here tonight and also, at home and working remotely. Sudan, Franklin, Haley, Brian, everybody else, thank you so much for making this such a great event tonight and all that you do. And thank you to all of the donors who have made this night possible, and also all of the people who have supported us throughout the years, printing this wonderful book, for example, that we have now tonight about the 50th anniversary, and all of the good work that has been done by our sponsors. I want to recognize all of you for what you've done to make this a great success. The state of NFCR is strong, and I have no doubt that we're going to, over the next 50 years, make many, many more cures. And I'm honored to be the chairman at this moment where we can start this new kind of path forward to make this possible. So with that, I guess that this is the conclusion of the 2023 Global Summit, but our mission has just begun. And I wish that all of you have great travels back to your home, and look forward to working with all of you as we help to make cures possible in this year. Good evening, everybody. Excellent. All right, great.